hypertension and diabetes especially, I'm going to use a strong term, but that's how doctors define it, and it's good to know them that way. They are simply called silent killers. Because what does that high blood pressure do? If the blood is exerting that pressure on the blood wall, what does it do? Well, a strong artery can manage it for some time, but the very fine arteries in our eyes, it can ultimately lead to blindness. It can lead to retinal complications. In the kidneys, it accounts for 15 to 20% of kidney failures. And kidney failure is no small thing. I mean, we are talking of dialysis, we are talking of kidney transplants and things like that. It simply leads to stroke. If people can reduce or manage their blood pressure, the chances of stroke go down by 7 times. So keep that in mind, that it can be, first thing I would say, I mentioned this last week also in a workshop I was doing. Anybody who is, now again, I really don't want to, I'm suggesting some of these things because it is important to address them, but I don't want you to go out of this class thinking, do I have hypertension? But on the other hand, the statistics are really so bad that why not get it checked? Because if you are the age of 50 and above and living in a city, chances are 1 in 3 people worldwide have hypertension. In some countries, that statistic is 1 in 2 people. And again, many people simply don't know. So my first suggestion would be, just go and get your blood pressure measured. We often go to see a doctor when things are not well. That's what doctors are for. But remember, you can also go and see a doctor when you're well for a general examination. So last week I was suggesting the same. Actually, I would go one step further to say, if there are 2 things, one thing that every household should have is a weighing scale. And the other, especially if you're in a family setting with your parents, yourself, why not get an electronic blood pressure machine? If nothing, once a year, you can monitor it. It may not be the most accurate. Doctors may not use that, but forget about it. I'm talking a few measurements, a few units up and down, at least on just seeing if you're moving in that direction or if you have hypertension or not. Those machines, in any good pharmacy will carry an electronic machine. So that's good to have. Now, why do we get hypertension? It could be genetic. If somebody in your family has had hypertension or a heart disease, that puts us in what is called a high risk category. And again, if we are over the age of 35 in the case of men, 45 to 47 in the case of females, that does put us. It's one of the things that comes with life as we age also. Interestingly, it wasn't that prevalent over 100 years ago, but with our lifestyle, with, like, even Master said in 1935, Chicago was having so much noise pollution that he said it was impacting people's lifespan, those who lived in the city versus those who were removed from that, you might say, stressful environment. So there are many factors that could contribute, but best way would be if we can just go and get that measured. Now, some obvious risk factors are smoking. Really, from the first 5 minutes of somebody taking a smoke, many people smoke, they said, oh, I'm still young. Tell them, even if they are young, measure your blood pressure 5 minutes after you've taken a few puffs. They will then and there see it. Same thing with alcohol. 5 to 7 minutes after taking any amount of alcohol. And again, imagine if this is happening in a sustained manner. The third thing would be being overweight. Now, frankly, I'm overweight. Being overweight does not mean to be obese. Overweight is simply slightly more than what your normal range should be. And again, in 2006, for the first time, we live in very interesting, you might say, urban settings nowadays. For the first time in 2006, more than 50% of urban adults were overweight. 2016, 72%. That's a staggering number. And like I said, I am one of them. I'm seeing Promila ji. She's a wonderful example of how to be then. And I remember over the years, sometimes people have come to me and they're like, oh, I want to put on some more weight. I said, no, you are the last few specimens remaining of what a normal person should look like. Don't aim to get plump or anything. So keep that in mind, friends, that this could be simply related to, of course, obesity, but also being overweight. The fourth thing could be lack of exercise. As even Paramhansa Yogananda ji said, when we do energization exercises, when you're tensing and relaxing different body parts, Master said it directly. There are many, many benefits that come, but today I'll speak more in terms of the heart and blood vessels. Master said energization exercises reduce the stiffening of the arteries and increase their elasticity. And Master was using these terms 100 years ago. That's exactly what leads to hypertension. As we age, blood vessels tend to stiffen. But if we can exercise, if we can do energization exercises, and I'll come to Ananda Yoga also, then we find that the blood vessels, they have, it's like if they are not increasing or reducing in diameter, then the blood is going through them at a very, very high pressure, and that of course leads to hypertension. The other thing would be stress, and stress is really on the rise. I mean, almost now 80% of visits to doctors are related to stress. It could lead to common cold. It can lead to insomnia. It can lead to hypertension. It ultimately does also, unfortunately, can lead to cancers. So stress is when, whether it's a relationship, whether it is work, whether it is, I don't know, news or anything, it could be finances related, health related, it could be our habit pattern, it could be our personality type to be worrisome and such. It could be functioning, sometimes you're in a leadership position, and a leader of course needs a team, but a team itself, managing a team is no easy thing. You make a team so that you're more relaxed, but again, managing people, managing teams can be very, very stressful, as we know. So keep in mind these things. I'll pause for now over here. Next time we can go more into how to manage these things. The other component is diet. Well, processed food, the amount of salt in our diet, for example. And there are many things that, again, as Yogananda ji said, if we start moving a little bit even towards fasting, towards a balanced diet, many researches have now happened on a vegetarian diet, on the amount of fruits we can have, on the kind of cooking we do, because certain types of cookings, they damage the nutrients that are essential to prevent hypertension. For example, magnesium, calcium, potassium, the amount of these things in our food. Some types of cooking can preserve it. Raw food, of course, has the maximum amount of those nutrients. But if we are having for a long period of time a high salt-based diet, a processed food-based diet, and the cooking methods are not healthy, again and again, the body is deprived. So I'll close with this thought. Whether somebody is moving into the high risk or is already in the high risk category, or somebody has hypertension like my friend had many years ago, by re-looking at our lifestyle, body weight, exercise patterns, dietary things that we are following and not following, and of course, smoking and alcohol, I simply mentioned because it's a no-brainer in these times that no amount of those things, even 10 years ago, people were saying some alcohol is good. In the case of hypertension and heart protection, a small amount of wine, for example, is okay. But cancer, dementia, and many other issues that come, they start from the first sip of alcohol itself. So even now, if you measure the overall health versus disease balance, alcohol is harmful from the very first drop, you may say. So anyway, I'll go in more details and statistics with pictures on these things next week. But for now, let's go into the healing prayers, and let's start by offering a prayer for the worldwide people everywhere, harmony, the light that comes into this world, and may we serve as instruments of the divine will, God's love and harmony. Let's see anyone or any country or area of conflict that is in need of these prayers. Let's invite the blessings, the light of all the saints and masters, our line of gurus, to send healing. Let's rub our hands together, send these blessings out into the world. Oh.